Good day, loves. Oh, maybe that was a little too far. Okay. We're adjusting the cameras and teams for our live on Facebook. We're live on Instagram and we're live on YouTube.
Indeed. Hello, welcome back to the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. Hair adjustments.
This is Friday. We are in Shine Day
Mhm.
of the podcast, and this is episode 55. I'm Coach Tensi, and this is
Coach Soul,
we are
Fulu Child, and we're Holistic Freedom Seekers. Our podcast follows our 5-prong healing system, which corresponds with the concepts of be, cleanse, fuel, move, and shine. Today is Friday, so it's Shine Day.
Yeah, and we're talking about breaking the silence, honest communication through awkward moments.
Mm-hmm.
So, Shine is all about sharing honest, insightful, and nourishing expressions. And that's what we're doing today. So, go ahead, take a moment right now to like this video, to put a comment down below. It could be in a moment that you had in your life that you
chose to be the bigger person, or just fought through some awkward feelings and communicated correctly
in a
despite
healthy manner.
them.
And of course, like, share it with a friend, and that really helps us a whole lot with the algorithm for this podcast, because it shows the algorithm and it shows others that this is something that is wanting to be seen by you, and that is valuable. Even though it has its own inherent value, as we always talk about, all beings have infinite worth. And this is some real stuff that we're sharing today, and every episode of this podcast. So I'm looking forward to getting into this.
You know, it's funny because as such a masculine guy, I'm not so savvy, you could say, with breaking the silence or choosing to go first on when it's awkward for both parties, right? If it's awkward for both parties, I'll definitely just keep the flow of however the other person is choosing to approach me or be around me, and be in a space where, and I don't mean this in the most ultimate immature way, but just where I'm in a space where if they make a move, then I'll genuinely and wholeheartedly make a move as well, and if they don't, then I won't, type of thing. And of course, in that, there's moments where I could go ahead and make the move, and then there's moments when it's very neutral. Right, moments that I could improve, and moments where it's neutral. It doesn't matter either way, as long as there's no intentional stirring up negative emotions on either party. But what we're talking about is the moments where you choose to kind of go ahead and take the leap and be open. There's an element of vulnerability and making an effort, making a conscious effort to, as we're going to call it, like this episode, breaking the silence. And what that takes, is a lot of self-awareness, Um, you're not perfect, and there's going to be moments where your communication or your communication style or whatever makes it so that you make a mistake. And when you make a mistake, or there's mutual mistakes, being made, there's power and grace, you could say, in vulnerably opening up the space to reset wherever you and the other party is at, and shining and sharing honest, nourishing, insightful expressions with them.
Yeah, I think that this speaks to an inner strength, to be able to communicate with being in alignment with truth and being open to, maybe I didn't quite get that right the first time. Maybe I didn't quite understand what you said or what you meant um, the first time. Let me not jump to a conclusion, because oftentimes that leads to the awkward moment, that leads to the hard moment of misunderstanding, when someone jumps to the conclusion and doesn't, in that next moment, have the compassion to consider, maybe there is a way that, because especially if you care about the relationship that you're looking to foster, and in this case, we're talking about friends, family, community building, and whatnot. And these tend to be relationships that we care deeply about. And so having the strength, the inner strength, to, when you're outwardly communicating with those loved ones or those that you care for, um, to look again. The word respect comes from respectare in Latin. And respectare, spectare, like that part of the word is like to look, is the seeing. And so to do it again, kind of like remix. So we're doing it again. We're looking again. Having the respect for the other person means that you are also taking that step back inwardly and reevaluating, re-looking, maybe take a different angle, double check to confirm what is true here. And oftentimes ego will get in the way. And that's part of what makes communication challenging, because when there's a fear, when there's an anger, when the person just was hot off the press, off of some sort of mental uproar of some kind, oftentimes they don't see or have the care in their arsenal at the ready.
Right, right. And so some of the common parts of the ego, or aspects of ego, that immediately jump in the way are like pride,
Yep.
right? I won't allow myself to assume the position of the one that did the wrong, or assume the position of the one who's responsible for doing the right. There's a pride aspect that can jump in the way. There's fear of rejection, of genuinely, sort of approaching and trying to open up a space between you and the other party or parties, and you just get blown off, dismissed, rejected, and then sitting with that, where that fear is met face head on. That can be really scary. And then there's
Fear of
just fear of
conflict.
conflict. Yeah, there's just the general um, avoidance. There we go, of anything conflict, right? That shows up for a lot of people, and all of these things are based in ego. All of these things are based in self-image and um, identity, and can be
And the
ignored for
smallness.
a greater good. Yeah, what'd you say?
And the smallness. Like, you're
Yeah,
forgetting that you're connected to
all things.
all that is, and you're forgetting your anchor in those moments.
And they can, so they all can be set aside momentarily for a greater good, for a greater opportunity and for a change, gonna make a change in your life. So um, one of the things that is important, and I'm glad that you kind of said your anchor, which I'm guessing has to do with your why, like why you want to take the first step, why you want to be the bigger person. Um,
It could. That's not necessarily what I meant, but
okay,
that could be part of it.
what did you mean by anchor? I like the word.
I meant the thing that keeps you centered, keeps you grounded, and like the word temperance. So uh, that self-regulation, the self-governance is strong within. No matter what's happening outside of you, around you, perceivably to you, um, that you have that more so a spiritual anchor of that knowing that, like what I said before, you're connected to all things. The you're an extension of everything, so you don't have to worry about the reactions or the appearances that someone else is going to have if you know that anchor of also you're like how they say standing on business, but you're standing on truth. So you know that what you're doing is right and it doesn't violate universal law, like what we talked about in previous episodes. You're not doing any harm, you're not aggressing, you're just, um, if needing to do so, defending yourself from an aggressor against you that is like trying to coerce you or physically bind you back in
Or
some way.
manipulate you, or deceive you, or any of the mental aggressions. Absolutely. And for me, yeah, the all of those would be like my why, would be tied to a why I am seeking, like in a general period of time, to better myself or to get over certain mental humps that I experience. So next thing we want to talk about is the power in being willing to try, right? Being willing to try. There's plenty of times in my life, and will continue to be plenty of times in my life, where I've found the will somewhere deep inside to at least put it out there and try. Usually, again, I'm very very matter of fact about things, so it won't necessarily be more than once if it's with me, but I'll sort of put it out there to try and reopen the door of some sort of normalcy and normal communications with someone who I fell out of normal communications with, whether it's super temporary or long term. Um, and and I think there's a lot of power in that as well, in feeling the feeling, again being self-aware enough to acknowledge you played a part in it, even if you played the smallest part, and then putting it on the table that, hey, um, either there's a clean slate opportunity, or there's an opportunity to fully understand what happened, and that can later lead to a clean slate. Just where the door is cracked open and something is put on the table, metaphorically speaking, that can re-emphasize the bond that you have with this person, or re-highlight that you and this person have already been through worse or seen worse, or whatever, and there's no reason to bolster whatever just happened most recent. There's a bunch. I'm not trying to get too specific because it's different for every person and every time that it happens. It's a little bit different, but just
You can maybe tell a story to paint the picture a little bit beyond just like giving strategies or tactics.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have one
Okay. So
off the
I feel
top.
like really early. So I'm a personality type that tends to avoid conflict, right? Automatically, and I'm not the competitor. Okay. So that those were some early identities that I had developed in my life to where if I was being made to compete against others, I would be more concerned about like how people are feeling and not wanting to be seen as the beginner, not wanting to be seen as I'm not already like really good, right? So I wouldn't push myself at an early age to do hard things. And later on in life, that became a real big hurdle for me to have to create these situations for myself where I am challenging myself to do something that I truly would love to do. I would love to have a healthy relationship. I would love to have, and I'm giving examples from previously in my life. I would love to have a healthy relationship with food. I would love to have a healthy relationship with a husband. I would love to have a healthy relationship with um, my just like communicating with family and with community and really having like a little tribe of people that I can lean on and count on and know that they can count on me too. And it took a lot of courage for me to even get to the point of speaking to people about something that's not as superficial as the weather or um fall's here, pumpkin spice and keeping it at some sort of um surface level, but to really talk to people about what really matters, like family and the challenges that we go through and being open enough within myself to be okay with the possibility of being rejected. And in our relationship too, like I've experienced it many times to where Soul has such a big personality, it's like huge. And sometimes I don't oftentimes unless I'm on the stage, right? But I feel like, especially early on, I would kind of like be comfortable in making myself small and then get upset when I would feel overshadowed in my relationships. And sharing honestly and sharing the truth of what we're feeling is really hard because you're coming up against all of the resistances of years that come through thoughts, that come through emotions that bubble up, and you're having to feel these things come to the surface every time that you even grace up against um, changing it. So that's what makes it so hard. And I just kept falling and failing at communicating well because I would have so many things in my mind. You should already know. You should already like be reading my mind and know exactly how to communicate with me and all of that. And it had to be brought to my attention again and again that, you know what, most people, no one knows what I'm thinking and no one knows what I am going through or has gone through unless I tell them. And if I want them to really be in a healthy relationship with me in some capacity, whether it's business or it's friendship or whatever, I have to start to trust myself enough to be strong enough to take it if I do receive rejection. And I have to begin to trust them enough to even give them the chance. And the more that I would just push myself to share what I value and share when, you know what, that was not okay. And that will probably never be okay with me. Those moments that are not okay. Um, it helped me learn a better way to find balance in my relationships. So I could break the silence and be more open so that it's not just a hiding away for the sake of not wanting to be in conflict or not wanting to be seen as insufficient, but just like an honest, like, hey, here's where I'm at, and this is what I'm noticing, that's coming up in me. I'm not blaming you for it. It's just what I'm observing within me, and this is where I'd like to go with our conversation. Um, let's see how we can do this. You know, yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I said.
yeah. Using those I statements instead of you statements. You such and such. You could have such and such. You. But using I statements is definitely here's what I saw. Here's what I experienced. Here's what I understand. And here's where I want to go. Definitely are super powerful. Great story, and I think that was probably a really good way to kind of close out today's episode because it encompassed like everything that we wanted to touch on in terms of what it feels like, what you come across internally, and then what to do about it. Um, did you wanna touch on anything specific before we close out? I think it was a good story.
Um, I just want to bring it back to like why we're even talking about this, because one of the pillars that this year especially has become more important, to the point of it being one of my anchors, is this topic of sustainable community, and the need and the remembrance that we need each other, and especially in this coming year that's coming up with all of the shifts in the economy and in government, which means mind control. Anyway, gubernare. But in all of these shifts that we're seeing and we're being met up against with inflation, and everyone having to work like at least two jobs, and no one can truly retire unless you are already a millionaire, or unless you put in those long hours to figure something out, or unless you get lucky, or unless you have an inheritance, or unless whatever. But it is more and more important for us to come back to community and communicate honestly with each other. We're not truly in a competition with each other. That is an illusion. That is a construct that was created for us to like fall in line. Okay. We are um, definitely in a position to start to build like real relationships, like meaningful connections with people that can help to sustain us in challenging times. And we have to be the ones many times to reach out first, because everyone else tends to be in some sort of uh, thought pattern that says that they're alone too in their thinking, and they're not. They're likely thinking the same way you are, but just hesitant to reach out because they don't know if that would be appropriate. So sometimes we have to be the one to reach out, and that means reaching out with no strings attached. Like I'm not trying to change who you are. I want us to have some honest communications and see where we can collaborate, man. Yeah.
Yeah, what ideas you have that overlap with ideas that I have, and who we know on both of our ends that can connect us with our ideas, and they have their own ideas, and how these things can turn into a sustainable community, and then how we sustain it over time and not just in the now.
Yeah. No, because that's not cool. Because um, if we're about this life of having an empowered world, then we can't just be in it for right now. This works for me. It has to be that long term game. Is this going to work for me when it's hard?
Like some of our ideas overlap with a lot of homeschooling ideas because our ideas are about how to teach the community. And for a long time, that was about like how to teach adults. And now we have a daughter And it's
Yeah.
like, how to teach all of the levels, how to teach the adults that have children and how to teach the adults that work with children, and also how to teach the children directly, which are three different strategies or three different approaches. And teaching all five overlapping prongs of our healing system: how to be, how to cleanse, how to fuel, how to move, and how to shine. And then there's the whole, farming and outside self-sustainability and community sustainability aspects to it as well that we don't teach ourselves.
Yeah.
Um,
That's not our thing. That's
but
not our specialty.
right, but definitely overlap with be, cleanse, fuel, move, and shine. So um, much love, and thank you for sticking it out with episode 55 of the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. Hopefully this was a
Yeah.
helpful and informative and inspiring episode for you. Please put in the comments what you know, understand, or taking away from today's information. And we'll see you guys on Monday for the next B Day in episode 56 of the Holistic Freedom Secrets podcast. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, share, notify yourself for the next time that we're going live so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yeah. We love you. Take good care. See you.